Hey friends, welcome or welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Bridget and I make home and DIY content every single week here on YouTube. I also have an Instagram page at bybridgetdiy that I will make sure and link below for you guys. You can follow along there if you'd like to see daily behind the scenes content as well as more home and DIY tips and tricks. I'd really appreciate it if you like this video to have you give it a thumbs up down below, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so that you never miss any of my new videos. I have really high hopes for today's project, so let's go ahead and jump right in. I've mentioned before that it's very normal for our design styles to change over time. For example, my style used to be more farmhouse, but now it is definitely leaning more towards modern boho. And the artwork over my bed is a great example of something that, while beautiful, just no longer fits my style. So in today's video, I decided that I wanted to DIY a new piece of artwork to go in that space. Don't worry, I've got plans to gift and or DIY something over the old pieces, so nothing will go to waste. Let's go ahead and get started. Instead of buying a traditional unframed canvas, which can get pretty expensive, I'm using this 3x2 foot linen covered photo board that I found at HomeGoods. I was super excited when I saw that it was actually damaged in 2 places, because that meant I was able to negotiate the price down from $30 to $22. It never hurts to ask for a discount. One of the pieces of hanging hardware was sticking out past the edge, so I'm first going to remove the top screw and then pivot it back inward. I'll be hanging the finished piece from other hooks, so it's okay if this one isn't completely secured. You may have seen me use this trick before, but I like to use a stiff piece of paper like this paint chip to create a barrier between the paint on the frame and the canvas. It's not perfect, but since I'll be painting the canvas later, it's enough for my purposes. This gray frame was beautiful as is, but because I'm leaning away from the farmhouse look and into the more modern style, I decided I would paint it a crisp black. When the black paint is dry, I'm using frog tape to cover the edge where the frame meets the canvas. I made sure the entire inner edge of the frame was covered because the next step gets a little messy. I needed a lot of texture to hide the holes in the canvas, so I decided I would use joint compound. I'm applying it with a putty knife using horizontal strokes to smooth it out slightly as I go. This step would probably be faster if you used a wider knife, but I'm just using what I had on hand. Eventually, I covered the entire canvas with a layer of the joint compound. You'll notice that as it dries, the color lightens as seen in these patches here. After allowing my canvas to dry completely overnight, I'm now painting it with a creamy off-white color. It might seem silly to paint something white with a different white, but I did it for several reasons. Number 1, to seal the chalky texture of the joint compound, and number 2, to add just a touch of warmth to the background color before we paint our design. Now that the base layer of paint is dry, it's time to mix some custom colors for my design. I'm not a master of color theory, so this step was a bit of trial and error for me, but I ended up using some off-white, brown, terracotta, and reddish clay color to eventually reach a tannish, dusty rose shade. I'm not very skilled at freehand drawing, so I'm basing my design off of this abstract line art I found on Pinterest. Each line took several coats to be fully opaque. Painting the lines was the longest step in this project, but as usual, podcasts came to the rescue and kept me entertained as I went. One thing that I would recommend if you want to add movement to your piece is to make a point of painting lines closer together every time they go vertical, such as in the example piece, or every time they go horizontal, such as in my piece. This will add the illusion of shadows and dimension to the final product. I'm starting out with a brown and a hunter green as the basis for my second color. After some mixing, I decided to lighten it up a bit with some off-white and eventually ended up with a beautiful muted green. Following the same process as I did with the first color, I'm creating abstract lines with movement using my green shade. Because I'm painting on such a textured surface, you may notice that these lines aren't completely smooth. I actually enjoyed this effect because it gave it a hand-painted look as opposed to a printed one. While I was painting, I accidentally transferred a little green paint over here, but this was very easy to touch up with my off-white and dusty rose shades. Next, it's time to repaint along the edge where the two colors meet to clean it up and give the illusion that the green lines are emerging from behind the dusty rose ones. Probably the most satisfying step was finally removing the frog tape from the edges of the canvas to reveal the black frame. As mentioned earlier, the consistency of dried joint compound is a bit chalky, so I'm vacuuming up the dust it left behind, and because I'm a little OCD, I'm also cleaning up the edges even more using an X-Acto knife to make them perfectly straight. Seeing the finished piece hanging above my bed brings me so much joy. It's hard to believe that I was able to create such a large custom piece of artwork for less than $30. I love the contrast of flat line art on a very dimensional canvas. It creates movement and life in a way that isn't overwhelming and truly helps me feel relaxed every time I walk into this space. Thank Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys, as I tackled this larger scale DIY project. I am thrilled with the end result, and honestly, I can't believe I didn't try this sooner. I hope after watching today's video, you feel inspired to maybe look past the scuffs and tears of damaged items and really see their full potential as something completely new. As always, a huge thank you to those of you who are subscribed to my channel, and if you are not yet subscribed, you can hit that button down below and officially join the By Bridget YouTube fam. See you guys next time!